Hi, this is Leanne Perry, and welcome back to another Sparkenation conversation. For those of you that may not know, Sparkenation is a spark that ignites passion, that leads to action, that changes what's normal. And with me today is Leanne Perryman, and she's been the people and culture leader at Surf Coast Shire for some time. I had the privilege to work with Leanne and some of her team a few years ago, and Leanne's retiring. And so I thought it was a great opportunity to have a chat with Leanne about what it's like to be in people and culture, and particularly to have a seat at the top table. So welcome, Leanne. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation.
Thanks, Ian. So am I.
As I think I was saying to you, and we've had this conversation before, but I think people in culture, people should be at the top table, but that hasn't been my experience. And so I wonder, and it really, before you began at Surf Coast, it really wasn't the case. So you've done the miracle. So I'm interested in how did it happen?
Yeah, thanks. How did it happen? That's a really good question, and it's one that I've been reflecting on quite a bit, actually, Ian, since you invited me to this Sparkenation conversation. I think it's come from there's part of the right place, right time for the organisation and the people, but there was very much, when I first joined the organisation, I had come from an organisation where there was not a seat at the table. It was hardly even a foot in the door when it came to, the whole people and culture side of things, and so when I first came into council, I probably didn't have an expectation that my work would be as embraced and as well regarded as what it has been. And I came in here very much with a mindset of, I am who I am, and I'm just going to be authentic, and there's a whole lot of stuff that I'm really passionate about, and I'm going to share that passion, and I'm going to talk. And I found that I had an audience. So the CEO at the time had only been here for about 6 months when I joined, and he and the rest of the executive team, they listened to me. I don't know why they listened to me. I don't know what the magic was.
I must tell you a little story before you go, just a quick one that you probably don't know about, but what you do know is that I was working as a mentor for your boss at the moment, the Chris Piper guy who hired you.
Yep.
And when all that happened, he called me to say, I found a gem. He's probably not told you. He was excited of what you were bringing to the table. So I just think that's important, that there was at least you had a boss, your immediate boss, who was prepared to embrace you. But maybe the others weren't so much, but they obviously quickly adapted.
Yeah. I recall my second interview with Chris, and I was coming at this job application from a position of, I wasn't really even sure that I wanted to work for a council. I thought a council would be boring, conservative, staid. And I wasn't really sure that that's what I wanted. I was coming from the surf industry that was, sexy and fast-paced, and I was like, oh, do I really want this? And I remember sitting down with Chris at my second interview and saying, I need to be really sure that I am what you're looking for, because I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. This is me, warts and all. If you want a really, polished, professional, sophisticated person who's going to rock up here in a suit every day, that's not me. But if you want someone that's really passionate and genuine and cares about people and outcomes, and then I'm up for it. And I can remember the look on his face when I said that. So maybe that's the moment he thought he found a gem. I don't know. But I also felt that real connection with Chris in that interview when he said to me that he believed that the whole person comes to work, and that it's not just about what happens between, 9 and 5, Monday to Friday, that influences outcomes in the workplace. And that was music to my ears, because I felt like I had found a real connection with my values.
Yes.
And so I think I walked in here feeling really good about that I had permission to be myself. And we all have imposter syndrome, and well, I think we do. Everyone I talk to says that they do.
Yeah.
And to actually walk in and have a little bit of confidence that it was going to be okay to just express what I thought, coming from an environment where it was certainly not valued or accepted, was liberating. So I think I came in here with a different level of confidence to perhaps what had been before in terms of the role of people and culture, and I came in with a very genuine desire to help make a difference. That was that has been one of my underpinning values, I guess, throughout my whole career, is this desire to make a difference. And one of the very first things I started working on, which was an initiative of the CEO. He wanted to refresh the values of the organisation, which CEOs often like to do when they first come in. And so that was the first project that I stepped into, and it was working through that and engaging and collaborating with people and hearing what it was that made them tick about the organisation. I think just gave me even more confidence that the way I felt was aligned, that there was a real alignment of values between my values, the values of the people, the work that the organisation was doing, and that whole purpose. We developed our purpose statement and refreshed our values, and so right from the get-go, I was aligned. I knew that I had this ultimate, I suppose, goal or very clear purpose about what we were here to do. And so it didn't matter if I did project X or project Y. If I knew that that's where I was focused, it was the right stuff. And I think that getting the seat at the table, if I come back to that, was as much about me being confident enough in what we were doing and why we were doing it to continue to have the conversations. And sometimes those conversations weren't welcomed. Sometimes, there might have been bigger priorities or other things going on, but that was okay. I always knew that in Chris, in my direct report, I had his support and his backing, and I never felt like I could fail.
No, and you did something that's, to me, is common sense, but to most people don't do this, and that is you engage the people in the definition of the values, the behaviours of the values.
Yeah.
Which I think I remember commenting to your time that this is common sense, but hardly anyone does it. They actually happens in the executive suite, and the people aren't involved at all.
Yeah.
But you involved the people.
Yeah.
And it was a bit magical how that unfolded, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And since announcing my retirement, I've had some people who were here at the time that have actually reminded me about that, which, that's definitely a legacy piece,
Definitely.
Those values are still here. We've got a new CEO, Robin, who's been here for 18 months, and it's music to my ears to hear that she doesn't want to change the values.
No, well, you wouldn't change something that's working. I mean, I found it fascinating over my 30 plus years of doing this work that when employees are involved in establishing the behaviours of the values, it works, and when they're not, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's pretty much that simple. Because I think what you did is you gave the people permission to be themselves as well, which I think to me is a key to all of this. You were given permission to be yourself, and how wonderful.
Yeah.
In a workplace where everyone's given the permission to be themselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point. because that's one of the lines in our direction statement is, you know, a place where we value the differences of others.
Yes.
You know,
Well,
and I think
and not only is it a line, but you actually live it. I mean, that's the thing,
yeah,
isn't it? I mean, it's one step to involve and engage people in creating the behaviours of the values. It's another thing altogether to actually live them.
yeah, that's really true.
Yeah.
And I think involving people, yes, but what I have learnt, and it's a lesson I'm still learning now, is that you have to keep refreshing that with new people too. You know, you have organisational turnover, and the values that the whole behavioural statements that we developed 7 years ago, there's been a lot of turnover since then, and we've had COVID. You know, we've had people who effectively haven't had those opportunities to experience them the way that we all did in the early days of developing them.
Yes.
And there needs to be that reconnection to purpose for people, because there's people who don't know the story. There's people who don't get why those values are what they are or how they came about. And so, you know, that's something that I'm noticing now, you know, post-COVID, post-lockdown, hybrid working, this connection to purpose needs more work. It's harder to make.
Do you think? I mean, this is an observation that I'm making, and I'm in conversation with most of my clients about this, and that is that impact has become more important than purpose. And so the conversation has shifted a little bit where purpose is still highly valued, but the conversation is more about the impact of living the behaviours.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that, but I get
it's a recent thing, probably, you know, a few months, where it's come about. I think you know, the conversations that I host are all about how do we become the best version of the unique, one of a kind human being that we are.
Yeah.
How do we bring that to our work? That's the essence.
Yeah.
Of the conversations I host, and out of that has come this idea that maybe conversations about purpose, they're still important, but maybe they're not as important as impact.
Impact, yeah.
And this has come about through, you know, we've got to do more about the climate than we do. We've got to do more about equality than we do. We've got to do more about, you know, etc. There's a whole list under the impact banner.
Yeah, and how do you impact all of those things? Yeah, and that our wellbeing program is all about living well and having impact. You know, live well, have impact. So, See, I learn something every day.
It's one of the great things about being alive, I reckon, in this time, is that the opportunities for living are immense. Yeah,
absolutely.
So we involved the employees. We got to a point where the values were being lived, and as you say, it's an ongoing thing because new people are coming in all the time. How did you sustain this? Because it's now 7 years or so.
Yeah. Oh, look, I don't think we've been perfect at it. I don't think we have. I think we're in a place right now where we are needing to do a big piece of work on reconnecting people to what those values meant and how they came about. We've had, pretty much turnover at our executive level. All of our executives are either new or are in new roles to them, and there's been organisational restructure then at the next level with the managers. And so what we're hearing from people right now is there's this real need for clarity, but clarity of purpose. You know, people are struggling with workloads, and when you drill into that, you start to hear that there's this, we're doing everything. So it comes back to that impact, I guess. You know, we are really good at saying yes. We all want to, please, and that's one of the things I love about our workforce is, a collective group of really, really willing people who are here trying to do their best for the community. And so they don't like to say no. We don't know how to say no. And what we're hearing, what we're hearing through that is not only if we were really clear about purpose and priorities, and we had clarity around that, that would help to guide those decisions about what we say yes to and what we don't.
Yes.
And the impact that we have. And so we're sort of in this, we're taking a few steps back at the moment to say, what have we done to help connect people to our behaviours and our values over the last few years? We really haven't done much. So
are you saying, is that including the community?
Oh no, more so the workforce.
More so the workforce.
Yeah. So, you know, we've sustained it through things like, you know, all of your symbols and you know, those cultural pieces about the storytelling and the things that you celebrate, the ceremonies, the words up on the wall, and the in our performance appraisal process, you know, talking about behaviours, in our one-on-ones, checking in on behaviours, celebrating when we see somebody doing something that is, you know, epitomises one of our behaviours. So they're all the ways we've sustained it, but I think we're at a point where we need to do something a little bit more deliberate with that for our people. Yeah,
I'm finding in my conversations with folk that we've got this challenge in the world today, and it's called busyness. And the age of technology was supposed to reduce all the paper, and it didn't. It made more. It was supposed to make life easier, and it hasn't. And it's actually made it more complicated. And so there's a lot of people that I'm talking to are having reflections about, well, we actually need to say no more often. And if we want this elusive life-work harmony, we've actually got to say no more often.
Yeah.
And that means that, you know, people are going to miss out on things. So how do we actually serve our purpose in order to bring this? So it's a very complex conversation.
It is. And which of those things are the important things, you know?
Yeah.
What are the, it is a challenge. That was one of the things that very early on, I think, you know, sort of in working with Keith and the rest of the executive team, I had these grand plans. I had this huge vision of all of the work that we were going to do. You know, I'd come in and I could see opportunities everywhere, and I was like, right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this and this and this and this. And I took the executive team through this, you know, presentation. I drew pictures, and here's the journey we're going to go on. And at the end, Keith said, oh, you know what, that's fantastic, but I'm exhausted just looking at that. He said, you know, it's great that you've got all these ideas, but people won't be able to keep up with that. People, you need to pace it. You know, you need to choose what are the really key pieces of this that are going to take us one step further, you know, a quantum leap, and focus on them, because if you try and do all of this, he said, I've got no doubt you've got the energy for it and the headspace, but the rest of the organisation won't. So be very deliberate about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and don't do too much. And
very insightful from him.
It was very good, actually, and I think that also gave us really good alignment then, which is what helped get the seat at the table, because we were really in agreement on, all right, well, what are the bits we're going to do? Yes. And this comes back to that thing of busyness, that unchecked, I would have just contributed to that busyness, and sometimes still do. You know, we've all got our own agendas. There's 420 people here that are trying to achieve something. So, you know, if we're all left unchecked, we're just making life very busy for everybody and ourselves. So,
yes, that's a fascinating conversation in itself that I have quite often, both one-on-one, but also in groups, and that is, and the question we explore is, how is my busyness contributing to the organisation's dysfunction?
Yes. Yes.
Or less than possible performance.
Yeah.
And it is, because I think we mean well, and no doubt everything that you put on the table would have been fantastic, but but we can't do everything.
Yeah.
That's been one of my challenges. I think, as you know, I've had some health problems, and it means I can't work as often as I'd like to, because I still love the work. But I now have finite times when I do work, and so I can bring my energy to the table for short periods of time.
Yeah.
But it's still a challenge because I've got all these ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I luckily cleaned the whiteboard before you came on, because it was full of ideas that just came out of one conversation yesterday, and I'd already noted them down, but I hadn't cleaned the whiteboard. But that could happen every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, there's 4 million things we could do.
Yeah. I worry about that in retirement. What do I do with all my ideas? Because I still get new ideas every day too.
There'll be a channel, I'm sure. And so what I've found myself doing, because not only do I have good ideas, not only do you have good ideas, but everyone we talk to,
everyone does. Yeah.
So the question becomes, what will make the greatest impact?
Mm.
You know, if this idea is implemented, will it make the greatest impact, or is this idea better to pursue because that will make a greater impact? And so it becomes a fascinating question. Along the way, you've no doubt had opportunity to bring some folk along the journey with you, because if I recall, it was just you at the start, but now you've got a team. Oh
no, there was always a team.
Yeah,
so when I came in, there was always a team. So we had the HR team and the learning and development, and so yeah, I think the difference is that the team was probably a bit more task focused rather than outcome focused. But you know, our team now is we're very purpose driven. You know, we reflect on our purpose, our team purpose. You know, if not every team meeting that we have, you know, at least once a month, we'll be talking about something to do with our purpose and what our role is in that. So, yeah, so they always had a team, but the team has definitely evolved. I think to the leadership group that we had, you know, one of the great things that we did as part of developing all of our purpose and our behaviours was also to then say we were going to have what we called an unashamed focus on leadership, and that we really recognised that for everybody to have a great experience at work, our leaders were the most influential in that. And so focusing on the leadership group and seeing the journey that the leadership group have been on in terms of their own understanding of self and you know the shadow that they cast as a leader, and how they the impact that they can have that's been actually really rewarding to see that journey. And even though the people might have changed over the years, just to see the evolution of what leadership looks like at Surf Coast has been quite rewarding.
Yes, I was fortunate to be involved in the early.
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
Part of that. What's been because I see this in many organisations and have done it over the years, is the focus is on tasks, and yet the focus really needs to be on relationships. Now you've done that. What have been some of the things that have built these relationships? I think the initial leadership group that I worked with was about 18 people, so they were sort of the top top leaders. Just got someone trying to come in, but I think they've got the days wrong, so I'll just get back to that. Sorry. So how do we make that shift from tasks? Because a lot of the leadership team at the time were focused on tasks as well.
Yeah.
And then there was this shift to relationships and well-being. Talk us through that journey.
Yes, okay. So I think that there was a lot of talking. I'm not going to, how would I describe it? We spent a lot of time being reflective as a leadership group and talking about what do, you know, not, we didn't necessarily talk about leadership straight up. We talked about people and how people feel valued, you know, and so I think we really connected in with that what we're dealing with is we're not dealing with a bunch of tasks, we're dealing with people who
Yes.
all bring their individual, you know, back to the Chris statement, the whole person comes to work. So
Yes,
let's
indeed.
you know, thinking about what do we do that makes people feel valued? How do we make them feel valued? And then there were some basic activities that spun off those conversations, but it was very much, you know, it was things like I think back to 7 years ago when our managers weren't having one-on-ones with their direct reports. Like, can you imagine that? That just seems like now. I know, it's like crazy. So
I mean, it's the only way that any kind of appraisal, as you know, I don't like the word appraisal, but it's the only way any appraisal system or whatever the performance system is, it's the only way it works, because if you're having regular one-on-ones, people don't get surprised in that annual or biannual conversation. They already know because it's happening in the one-on-ones.
Yeah. So that, you know, that's like a really tangible thing that we did, was go, hey, we should be having one-on-ones, and then providing a basic framework for how you do that, you know, and some skills, like skills on providing feedback or feed forward. Things like having you know, establishing a performance plan, like, you know, what are your goals? What are you going to achieve? How are you going to achieve them? How can I help you with that? There were some skills that we provided our leaders. There were some tools we provided our leaders. But I think the most powerful part in that was the conversations we were having as leaders about leadership. You know, talking about what does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to be a good leader? What does that look like for us here? How is it looking now, and what's the difference? What's the gap? What do we have to do? So there was certainly an evolution of leadership.
My apologies, Leanne. I've had to text that person who's been trying to get into our room to get rid of them. So I've just succeeded. I've never had to do that in a conversation before, but there's someone who's in a conversation tomorrow thinks it's today, so I've had to let them know. Yeah, so let's go back to this whole there's a whole person coming to work. I mean, I think that's a wonderful thing just to even say it. And you've been talking about part of that process to enable people to bring their whole selves to the work is that, you know, that they're feeling valued. How did that kind of thing, how did it filter throughout the whole organization?
So there's been, look, I think it was not just about saying it, but living it, you know, absolutely demonstrating that if somebody was having something go on you know, outside of their life, that's okay. Like, it's permission to be human. And one of the things that we did was shifted the focus away from engagement as a thing to well-being. So instead of saying, you know, that was a real big shift. We had been participating in, you know, formal employee engagement surveys with the sets of questions that were all around, you know, did you intend to stay? What were you saying about the organisation? Did you feel like you could strive? You know, those sorts of engagement-based questions. And
I mean, I always thought that those sort of things were toxic.
They can be good, used for good or evil. So, you know.
I mean, how did you make that decision? Because it's a huge, I think, a wonderful shift. But how did you make that decision?
I was very strong in my belief that if you have people who are well, you know, mentally well, supported, both at work and at home, they're going to be in the best place to bring their best game to work, perform at their best.
Yeah.
And if engagement is a thing, you're not going to get that from people who can't perform or people who are not well. You're only going to get that when people are in the best possible place. So
yeah, I've always thought engagement as a process is fine, but it's not a thing itself.
So I was very strong in my belief, and I was brave enough to have that conversation, and it really was about being brave, because I didn't think that our executive team were ready for that conversation, but I was, and we were sort of, I was going, I can just see the power in this, and this is our big new opportunity, and if we don't act on it, we're, you know, I don't know, we're just missing something. We're missing
good on you. I mean, lots of organisations have attempted this, but they didn't, in the end, abandon the engagement thing because there'd been a heavy investment in all the surveys and consultants and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And there's been a reluctance from what I've seen, to sort of let go of the old and bring in this new, because we let's face it, we have a mental health crisis in our society.
Yeah.
And if workplaces, if we're not doing something that contributes to the overcoming that crisis, then to me, we're not serious.
Yeah, and we've been focusing on mental health. Like before I came here, we were doing things like mental health first aid training, mental health first aid officers. So we did have an awareness and a commitment to helping, you know, to responding to mental health issues. But I was going, that's too late. You don't wait till somebody's having a mental health challenge or an illness to do something. Like there are things we can be doing that either help people on that continuum of mental health to, you know, to stay at the thriving end, or the well end of that mental health spectrum. And so that was something I was like, yeah, I feel like what we've done is great, but there's more we can do. And so when I remember the conversation I had with the executive team about it, and my proposal was, I just want to, for 1 year, let's do something different. Let's not focus on engagement. Let's focus on well-being. And here's all the data. Like, you know, there's all this. You still have to have the hard edge. And when you're working with an executive team where you have people who are, you know, CEOs are often about the numbers. And so to be able to present the data that supported what I was thinking was always important. You know, that was something I think that helped give me credibility at the table as well, that I wasn't just, you know, this fluffy HR person. There was a hard edge to what I was talking about. And so, you know, I said, I just want 1 year that we don't do an engagement survey, that we focus on well-being, that we look at how we measure well-being instead, and then what we can do to influence well-being, or create an environment where people can take responsibility for their own well-being, you know.
Yes, of course, countries now are measuring well-being.
Yeah, I was ready for a no, but I got a yes, and I was like, oh my goodness, I've got a yes, I can do this. But that was actually a real highlight to know that they trusted me. They trusted my judgment. They heard what I was saying, and they said, give it a go. And so that's what we did, and we ended up winning an ARI award for our wellbeing program. But it was a whole, again, it wasn't just one thing that we did. It was a series of things. And for me, it was about making sure that well-being was something that was embedded into our DNA, not just a you know, box that we tacked on to the end and said, oh, and now we'll do our well-being stuff. You know, it was like well-being should be right through our, you know, it's not even just culture. It's how we exist. You know.
Well, so, I mean, it is the biggest impact that we can make to help people to feel well. And then to feel valued, because as you proved, performance follows. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes.
So you know, there were lots of little things, but you know, you can do flu shots and fruit boxes and all of that, but they're not the things that will have the big lasting impact.
No.
It really
what are
is.
the things that have lasting impact?
Oh, I think it's about kind of comes back to what I was saying at the start. It's that permission to be yourself and permission to be human and permission to do what you need to do. Like, and it's different for everyone. So, you know, we had a big rethink of what flexibility meant for us. I can't even begin to think of all the little things that we did that added up to where we're at now in terms of our focus on well-being, but very much that relationship piece, the listening to people, talking to people, understanding what they need to be successful. And we always started from a place of yes. See, this is that yes thing instead of saying no. But we always tried to think about how can we get to yes rather than starting off with no. You know, instead of saying, oh no, that's not how we work here. You can't possibly work from home. This is pre-COVID. You know, we would go, oh, well, how could that work? Let's have a think about that. You know, we have this real openness, I think.
I mean, that's a key, isn't it? I mean, I love what you said, though. It's permission to be yourself, permission to be human, to enable people to do what they need to do. And then these are just, they sound simple within themselves, but they're profound in their implication. Yeah. Well, Leanne, this has been great. We're sort of coming close to our sort of time together. Are there anything else? I think there are so many gems in this. I've very much appreciated it, but is there something else, anything else that you can think of that folks would really appreciate?
Oh, I don't know, Ian.
Let's maybe, when this goes on YouTube, there's obviously a comment thing, and maybe you can just, if you think of something, you can add some comments to the YouTube video.
Yeah, sure. And if other people put comments in or questions, and I'm happy to respond to those too. So, you know,
I think, and maybe
I'll be retired. I'll have plenty of time to be sitting on YouTube, and you know.
who knows, a conversation may ensure. Well, I hope, Leanne, that the organisation throws you one big party soon. When's the deadline?
The 30th of June.
Okay, so that was your goal, wasn't it, at the end of financial year 2023?
It was, yeah. It's been a long time coming. So here we are. It's really going to happen. That's what happens when you plan. Fantastic.
Well, I wish you and your husband the greatest joys and pleasures as you travel around the country. And I look forward to having a conversation again sometime soon.
Yeah, thanks.
Terrific.